Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Wudi as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. This is from an act named SEKAI NO OWARI, titled World Peace, as I understand it, the translation. So we're going to listen through this track from start to finish. We're going to hear what we think. We also have lyrics at the end to look forward to. So we're going to do that and hear what we think. Let's go. There's a phenomenal bass response there. Oh, we got lyrics as well, by the way. There you go. I mean, it's so busy with the drums, the percussion, that bass line. Because there is a bass, like I definitely hear a bass line there. The vocals are pitched correctly as well. The singer's in a nice range to sit on top of the rest of the elements in the arrangement. It's like a bass synth or something like that. Interesting use of brass here. It's got a very wah-wah kind of round tone to it. It's kind of a quirky combination with the acoustics and clean electrics. We have the slow strums. Definitely a bass in there for sure. With some military drums here, some snares. Is that like an electric drum kit or is it an acoustic drum kit? Really fascinating tone to a lot of these different ingredients. Almost, that tone there sounded very dismissive, didn't it? But the church organs coming in here for almost spiritual, religious ambience. I'll be honest, like, I don't think I've really listened to music like this before. This is a thoroughly unique experience for me. There is something, it kind of reminds me of some of the music that I heard back. I don't want to, actually, no, I don't want to say that because it's not going to be taken the right way. I don't mean it in a bad way, but I know some people will take it as in that way. An iteration of that hook thing, right? Oh, sick use of a lead solo here. Tapping. There's a bit of vocal modulation there occasionally as well as some of the transfers. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I haven't really heard anything like that before. That's a thoroughly unique experience to me. I will talk about it more in the conclusion, but I'm stoked with it, and I'm glad that I got to have Wudi show this to me today. We've got the lyrics here anyways for world peace. You know, the monsters called humans are waging a war called world peace, but the truth is that monster called world peace is a chimera. Right, there were no flowers inside the world, there are no people inside the world peace war. Oh, I get it. So even if you're trying to say something, it still involves fighting people, so there's no pure cause of warfare, is that it? The average citizens with a taste for macabre make fall a rain of blood all over the world. The non-living human beings are waging a war called world peace, but the truth is, the inhuman living beings, I suppose. The inhuman beings. The world peace you're wishing for is not world peace because you're killing flowers, insects, and our planet. May there be peace for all mankind. Let's pray for a future war for all children throughout the world. God, please destroy mankind. God, please bring peace to our world. Damn. Oh my goodness, that was heavy. Right, so I think, well, hang on a minute. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named SEKAI NO OWARI titled World Peace. Now, what I think this track is about someone talking about how the aim of world peace is just complete. It's a fallacy because often trying to make the world peaceful involves things being destroyed or people getting hurt or injured or killed. And things just, the amount of damage that is done is not worth the potential theoretical, hypothetical benefits of it in a lot of situations. And I've been reading a bit of Noam Chomsky recently, so I can kind of relate to that in a sense, like, you know, like how the world peace is like a propaganda thing for a lot of governments and stuff like that. Don't worry, I'm not going down, taking a pill or going down a rabbit hole. I've just been reading stuff recently, books, you know, like just with alternative, how do I say this without sounding like I'm going to turn into like a real conspiracist? It's just not that at all. But often when like governments, you know, they say they want world peace, it can actually be something else. Or even if it is, it's about their tangible benefit. Like we as human beings on this earth, we might exist and we might not want to fight between ourselves, but we're also damaging the planet around us in that pursuit for peace. So is it now a purely a good thing, a non-chaotic good, or and you know, like even so, you know, if you wish for our children a better future, it's just simply not for there to be any more kind of hurt. It's just simply to just stop having more human beings together in the first place. It's an interesting track. It's very strong, very forward with its views on things. I kind of appreciate how poetic it is whilst being so blunt with its assertions. When I talked about the fact that it sounded like they were dismissive near the end, I completely understand it given the subject matter. But I think that the vocals here are tremendous. We had nice, catchy, relevant, fascinating vocal melodies here. We similarly had that main singer in the center of the stereo field for most of the time, but I don't think we needed more than that. The characterization, the performance there was on point, especially given that dismissiveness there at the end, and the talking for that wish, that prayer that we were going to have as well at the end. That was kind of dope. And ultimately, I think we harmonized really neatly and appropriately with the rest of the elements within the arrangement. We're clearly an experienced, polished singer, and we showed that here. We also didn't have the vocals all the time because we were content to allow there to be solo sections, such as with the guitar parts, or allowing like the brass parts or anything else to be there. Like, it's an incredibly complicated song. So because if we move away from the vocals to the actual structure of the track, how it was built and developed here, we had not only verses and choruses, but instrumental sections like the brass and stuff like that, transfers, interludes, again, solo sections, just a wide variety of different little bits and pieces that were stuck together, amalgamated, not necessarily amalgamated, but stitched together in a way which is very considerate and timely. And ultimately, I think there are a few particular highlights for me in regards to the way things were played in the mix. I think the drums were absolutely spectacular. I think there was a lot of variety to different grooves there. Some of the fills were dope with the tom parts there. There was an interesting cymbal tone to the kit as well. I kind of liked how kind of bright and brash it was, but it also wasn't too heavy and ferocious in your face. I'll also give a shout out to whatever the bass tone was, whether that was a bass synth or something like that, because that was tremendous. It swam and it was ominous and edgy and very thick and very it actually, I kind of preferred it to a bass guitar tone, if I'm honest. I kind of did dig that quite a bit, and it was good fun listening to that, especially even with the subject matter. Like the bass had a great groove to it, was nicely synced with the drums, and there were of course pianos as well, which were charming with the different arpeggio and sort of like left and right hand transfers and such. We had a nice sense of unison and polish with that. The guitar parts as well, between the steel string acoustic leads, the cleans there, the chords double tracked on the sides there, going with some open and bar chords there, to the really phenomenal solo section in with that really intricate voice, and there were a bit of tapping and some nice sort of more kind of melodic phrasing there to allow yourself to kind of to treat it as another version of the lead voice. So, like the guitars were on point. We never really overwhelmed the listener with the way things were written. I think if you had a native understanding of the language, the story would probably be more impactful. And I think that even with that translation there, I still see the song differently than I did before. I think with that intensity, that subject matter, I think if you gotten too dark with the various parts that the instruments were played, it would have been a little bit too oppressive. I'm still in two minds about that brass though. There were like some synth brassy bits going on, as well as some military marching drums or something with those interesting triplets, sort of almost buzz rolls-esque on the bridge. I think that the brass worked well for that military theme, the war, the sound of going to war. That made sense there. I like that we didn't sort of focus on that too much though, because I think that would have been a little bit too on the nose. There are a lot of songs that do the whole kind of trumpet solo kind of thing, or like it just would have just not had the same level of charisma unless they made it kind of funky sounding, where I don't think that would have necessarily been appropriate for this track and the subject matter. So the motif itself though was well thought out and constructed. I'm very, very happy with the way that we had almost a really accessible motif there with the various chord progressions and such. We never got too dark with the minor triads there. We strayed away from extensions there, I think, because we didn't want to make it too sort of like pretentious or oblique or opaque. We wanted to stick with traditional chord models, but also allow again the brass to highlight some of the upper ranges there and let the tone set the mood of the style rather than necessarily the note choices themselves, especially when we had so much color from the singing and the various other sort of like sub leads and leads in the mix, like the key parts and lead guitars and etc. Ultimately, the motif made me feel as if it was someone who was trying to sort of communicate that they were upset about the situation without being too underwhelming with it. Like someone who's like trying to still be your friend about it, but just eventually just gives up on human beings as a whole, especially at the end of it. Again, for the final time, we kind of sounded like we gave up on the whole entire subject, whether things were going to improve or not. And then we just had that big solo, that sigh of frustration, and boom, we're done. So the motif, in essence, with the chord shapes, the variations in the bass line, making for a very interesting track, even past the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, was very satisfying to listen to. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to listen to it. And I think that they're a great band, nice and tight, without a note out of place. Ultimately, I think, just the icing on the cake is the studio production, the recording, mixing, and mastering, which is stunning. I think that they did a tremendous job of not only capturing a really great performance there, but also blending the unique elements. And I'm still undecided about some of the tones of the instruments, whether I really like them or not, but I can nonetheless appreciate the hustle there and the effort put in to try and make them compelling and to make them fit in together. Things were nicely notched in the stereo and the frequency spectrum there. There were no resonant frequencies there, no things arguing with each other in a way that was weird. Even that low sort of bassish kind of tone there, which was nice and thick in the low end, it didn't kind of grumble too much or kind of float around. It had a purpose and it stuck to it. I think that outside of that, we had lots of stuff happening in the frequency stereo field as well. I think it's nice and wide in the headphones, and it sounded huge, especially when the brass came in. It had this massive kind of tone to it, like in the mid part of it, before the bell curve kind of fell down a little bit. We allowed things to simmer for a sec before going back up for the final chorus section, as well as the solos and all else. It was great attention to detail with the bell curves and the various intensities of the track in regards to performance and composition, but also the studio production, where things are, there was a nice amount of dynamic range, so it was nice and loud without pumping. With the nice presence to various things like the vocals, for example, the leads taking over. And ultimately, it was nice to know without pumping as well, so the bus compression limiting was handled. It was an unusual mix for me as a final note because I was just expecting some different sound. I'm not used to some of the sounds we had for like the different guitar parts and the brass there. It was like a synth brass or something like that. I wasn't expecting a synth brass. I'm not always a fan of that. But I think here, especially with some other sort of electronic elements like the bass and stuff, it worked. They could pull it off. It's also worth noting it was in 2010, so if they were messing around with MIDI technology and stuff like that, it wasn't as advanced back then, even if they were a commercial grade band. You didn't have the same kind of resources with computer music that you do nowadays. But even then, still a good time, still a great track, and thank you very much for watching my review of this song from an act named Sekai no Owari titled World Peace, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via their various social medias and a Spotify page. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SE Patrons video. Spiderhands out.